We on here, James? Are we on? Can you guys hear me? Okay, there, I can hear it now. All right, great. Let's go ahead and call this special meeting to order. It's Tuesday, May 5th. It's 5:30 p.m. And this is, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start us off with the Pledge of Allegiance, even though there's not that many people here. So please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. James, I don't have my agenda with me. Can you, okay, I was going to say, just keep scrolling to the next item, and then I'll read it off of that. Thank you. All right, so this is a continued business resolution authorizing city manager execute an amendment to the professional services agreement with TeamCivX to conduct a sales tax feasibility study. This action is not a project under the California Environmental Quality Act, also known as CEQA, pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15060 and 15378. And the recommendation is to adopt the resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an amendment to the professional service agreement with TeamCivX to conduct a second sales tax feasibility study or provide direction to staff regarding the other alternative actions included in the report. And who's given the report? That's what I thought.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm sorry for the special meeting. It's a somewhat time-sensitive item, and I know not everyone will be at next week's council meeting, so we wanted to move forward at this time. Okay. By way of background on this item, we talked a little about this in February as part of the development year 25-26 budget and the development of the 26 to 2030 capital improvement program. You authorized the then interim city manager to enter into a contract with a company called TeamCivX to help us evaluate the feasibility of a local funding measure, specifically a sales tax. The scope of work for that contract included conducting a sales tax feasibility study, depending on the results of the study, working with staff on education and outreach material, and if the council ultimately made the decision to bring forward a ballot measure, the scope of work also included helping with the preparation of the ballot material. The sales tax feasibility study was conducted in late fall of 25. We presented those results to the council at the February 25th, 26th council meeting. I apologize for all the words. The study did test a half-cent sales tax over a 10-year period, which was estimated to generate approximately $7 million annually. The language in the survey also mentioned that the potential measure would include independent audits, it would include a citizen oversight committee, and it would also be fully local controlled money, so there wouldn't be any potential for the state to come and take the money at some point, as an example. The results of the survey showed that 83% of the participants indicated that their quality of life in Santee was good to excellent, which we heard from the consultant was a really positive rating based on work that they do around the state. Part of the study to really gauge the potential for the measure being successful was to present arguments both for and against. And after being presented with all of that information, the respondents of the survey indicated that 63 of them would definitely or probably vote for the proposed measure. After presenting the results at the council meeting on February 25th, the direction from council was to move forward with education and outreach to the community and also continue meeting with the infrastructure advisory group as part of those outreach efforts. One of the great pieces of information we got out of the survey was information from participants about their priorities for the city of Santee. There was this question asking that if the measure were to pass, how would you want to see that money utilized? So this provides a great cross-section of interest in streets, parks, public safety infrastructure, fire-related projects, and other I think, projects all geared toward the notion of a safe and a clean Santee. So there's a good cross-section of projects here, and we got a great indication of how residents would want to see that revenue spent if there were to be a successful tax measure. As mentioned, the direction in February was to move forward with outreach and education materials. Staff has really looked critically at that list of projects and programs that I just showed to you and evaluated that against if a half-cent measure were to be passed and that estimated $7 million in annual revenue, would we be able to really tackle those lists of projects, programs, and services our residents identified in a meaningful way? And I think the conclusion we came to is likely not, with only a half-cent sales tax. I wanted to provide a couple of examples to really illustrate that point. The street condition, as council knows, we measure it by something called the Pavement Condition Index, or a PCI. The council has invested about $16 million in the last 4 years to help bring up the PCI for the city. The target right now is 70. We've been budgeting for that for the last few years. We get $2.3 million from the state and a regional tax, but to maintain that 70, it's an additional $2.2 million annually. And I think both the council and our residents would like to see an even higher quality of street maintenance. So if we wanted to go, as an example, to a 75 PCI, that by itself would be $5 million annually in general fund dollars that we would need to do that. Another example of the projects that are included in the unfunded capital improvement program, I pulled out a couple of fire-related items. There's the interim fire station, which is the North Santee station that we've been talking about, for $3.4 million. There's the comprehensive remodel of Station 4, which is our oldest station. We've had some recent discussions with council about that and things that are out of code, and it's quite old and has a lot that needs to be addressed. And then a brand new permanent Station 20 that's in the budget for $22 million, unfunded. So I think it's also worth mentioning that there are some projects the city is either planned or moving ahead with, really notably the community center, that aren't being funded with general fund dollars. They have dedicated funding sources like park in lieu fees and park development fees, as well as a state grant that can only be used for the building of the community center. So we aren't taking away from these other projects by moving forward with the community center. Again, a lot of words, but I'll talk through them so you don't have to read them all. If a measure was placed on the ballot for those more significant capital projects, we'd probably be looking to finance them. And that's a pretty common tool that's utilized for capital projects because they are more expensive. They also are what's considered multi-generational projects, so they are going to serve residents for decades to come. So it would be appropriate to finance those and pay for them over time. In some cases, there are bonds that are 25 to 30-year bonds, which spread out those payments, and the payments are lower. But because we're looking at a tax measure that would be a 10-year period, that means you're compressing those payments into that 10-year period, which saves a lot from an interest perspective because you're obviously paying the debt off a lot sooner. However, it does make the annual payments higher because you are paying off those big projects in a shorter period of time, which again impacts what we could do with the $7 million annually if we stayed with the half-cent sales tax. So again, recognizing that our residents have a lot of different projects and program and services they want to do, and the limitations surrounding a half-cent sales tax and the $7 million, we have come to the conclusion that really a 1 or a cent would be more beneficial. We know that that wasn't what we tested in the initial survey. So we are bringing forward a recommendation that we amend the contract with TeamCivX to add a second feasibility study to test the full cent for a 10-year period. I'm not asking for any additional funding. We have the funding available. However, I don't have the authority to approve the amendment. And I think this is important enough that even if it was within my authority, I would want to bring it back to all of you to see where council wants to go with that. If council were to approve amending the agreement, we would get the amendment executed pretty quickly, plan to do the survey in the next couple of weeks, and bring results back to the council. I will, but obviously you all are the policy-making body, so we will follow the direction that's provided. One would be to continue with outreach and education on the proposed half-cent sales tax that we talked about in February, and just making sure that we're being really mindful of what residents could expect or not expect if that's what we proceed with. And then obviously another alternative is if council wanted to pause current efforts, maybe spend more time on outreach and education related to the budget. One of the things you heard from the consultant when the survey results were presented was it is obviously a snapshot in time. It's been 5 months since it was last done. There's different things that have happened in the world and in the economy since the survey was done that could potentially impact how voters would respond to this. So this is an option as well. And with that, that's my presentation. I'm available for questions.
James, you want to call the speakers?
Yes, sir. We have 2 speakers. The first being Aaron Hackett.
Welcome.
I'm waiting for my timer. Yeah. Oh, all right. Mayor Minto, council members, McNellis, Trotter, Koval, and Hall, thanks for being here this evening. Over the years, I've had the opportunity to interact with each of you, and I know this, each of you cares deeply about this city. You're public servants doing a job that's often thankless, and you face constant criticism, and even when you get things right, the praise can be short-lived. You continue to show up and put in the hours and work to make Santee better, and that matters. Tonight, I'm asking you to continue to choose the hard path. The need for a tax measure is no longer a debate, it is a reality. It's undeniable. The cost of living continues to rise, and the demands on services continue to grow. And pushing this issue down the road is no longer a viable option. Right now, I'm missing my daughter's softball practice to be here. That's a sacrifice and one that she understands. But it's not unique to tonight. I work a 56-hour work week, often more. And during the last tax measure, myself and members of the Santee Firefighters Association worked those same long hours, then spent our off days educating, organizing, and fighting for this city. We gathered over 6,000 signatures. We knocked on over 9,000 doors and fundraised over $280,000 to support that effort. We stood in front of our community and were vulnerable. We opened ourselves up to public criticism, and through it all, our families came second because we believed in the mission to provide this city with the resources that it needs and desperately deserves. We came up short by just 1,317 votes. We did it on our own. We can hold our heads high. We tried. Tonight, I'm here to make a personal request from each of you. I'm asking for your honesty, leadership, and courage. Right now, this city doesn't need passengers or minor participants. It needs active leadership from trusted members of this community, like each of you. I'm asking each of you not only to support this tax measure, but to be the champion of it, the face of it, and the courageous leaders that we desperately need to secure our economic future. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about a tax measure, It's about your legacy. What will each of you be remembered for? Will it be hesitation or will it be courage? As a resident raising his family in this city, I know which I prefer. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Adam Daniels.
Welcome, Adam.
That's it. Hi, council, mayor. Thanks for having us. I don't want to preach to the choir here. You guys know the costs associated with it. Wendy outlined all the costs. You guys are more acutely aware than anybody of the cost and the funding needed for these capital improvement projects. We've had a Santee infrastructure advisory group going since July, outlining those costs and coming up with the priorities and figuring out how to fund these priorities. The fire department has done a good job of outlining the priorities and what is needed to respond to the public in Santee. It's not about buildings, it's not about infrastructure, it's about public safety. It's about getting to the public in the proper amount of time. We've done a good job of leaving the proper the appropriate apparatus available for the appropriate calls with our new BLS units and our squad, and thanks to you guys, but we need to continue that to keep our community safe. Again, it's not about the infrastructure, it's about keeping our community safe. And you guys all support that. I know you guys do. You've reiterated that many times that you support that. You support the roads, you support Director Chavez's community services, you support all that, but we need funding to do it. And I don't think it's a debate that we need a new funding source. That's been talked about by everybody. Councilmember Trotter brought up, he didn't think a half cent would fund it. Let's explore 1 cent. So I really appreciate you guys doing this. Just kind of to dovetail on stuff that Aaron said, that the timeline is getting short. You've all ran for a campaign. You know the timeline's getting short. You know we're going to present this June 24th, and that gives us a short timeline to get all the educational pieces out, the fundraising going. You guys did not wait on your campaign till June 24th to start your campaign, to start your planning, that kind of stuff. So we need to get this ball rolling. We need somebody to spearhead it. We need an independent group to get it rolling. El Cajon was successful in a city-sponsored initiative 2 years ago. Engine 208 is going in service on May 28th. And they're rolling in their leaps and bounds ahead of us with their tax initiative. Chula Vista is opening new stations with their tax initiative. It's something that needs to be done. It's something that needs to be spearheaded in our ask of the council. Is this feasibility study is not an ask because I think it's obvious it's been brought up by the council, so that should be approved. But our ask of the council is to take city recommendation for this tax initiative and then council to spearhead it and be very public and very vocal about our needs with this tax measure. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Adam. Before I go on to council, anybody else that wants to speak in the audience that didn't get a chance to put in a speaker slip? Okay, thank you. And the reason why I did that, council, is because this is an extremely important topic that I want to hear from people about. So I'm going to speak first tonight, and I'm going to talk about the unfunded mandates. Some of the things have been mentioned. So I'm going to talk a few minutes about something that doesn't always make the headlines, but quietly shapes the reality of every city budget in California. And it's called unfunded and suspended state mandates. What's that mean? Quick history, and I've talked a little bit about this before. Overwhelmingly passed. State requires service, it should pay for it, or not required at all. Kind of like any other business. If you provide a service, you get paid for it. But since that time, the state has continued to build up a backlog of unpaid mandate reimbursements, amounting to billions of dollars. In this case, by the end of this year, we're expecting it to be $2.7 billion that are owed state, city governments, counties, and special districts. And that's an awful lot of money. So what that tells us, that something is important, the policy change, but the underlying pressure didn't disappear. Today, the state has the ability to delay funding or suspend mandates altogether. And when that happens, the responsibility doesn't disappear. It lands right back on the cities. Because when it comes to public safety, emergency responses, and essential services, cities don't have the reality of saying, oh, we can just stop that. No, we have to continue. So what do? We absorb the cost. We shift the money out of the general fund. We delay infrastructure projects like streets and roads and other things like that. You may go to the park and see a park bench that needs to be replaced. Well, we can't do that because of these unfunded mandates. So what else do? We dip into our reserves from time to time. And if you listen to the news and you hear that there's a lot of cities around the county from time to time dipping into those mandates. Those reserves. And you know what? If you went to other counties, you hear the same thing from city after city after city, county after county in the state of California. And you know what? They're all doing the same thing. Why? Because it all adds up over time. And while those numbers are measured in billions at the state level, what they really do is show up as a very real and very serious problem in our local governments. In the city of Santee, in the 2024-25 budget cycle, the impact of these funding gaps, what I've been able to find, was $33,000 in public safety costs that the city had to absorb. Let me tell you, finding these numbers out there is very difficult. What I've done is ask the city to start, if possible, start doing a better job of following these mandates that we're paying for but not being reimbursed for. So that $33,000 represents real trade-offs. Resources that could have gone to other priorities, but instead had to be redirected to maintain expected service levels. So even the promotions and protections voters put in place, the system still allows costs to be shifted downward. When I say downward, I mean to the cities. So when we talk about local challenges, it's important to recognize that those pressures don't always originate locally. Often they start with decisions made at the state level. Proposition 1A created important guardrails, but it didn't eliminate the underlying tension between the state that requires and what it fully funds. And until the gap is consistently addressed, cities will continue to do what they've always done: step up, deliver services, and make it work. But they'll be doing it by stretching local dollars further than they've ever intended to go. We heard at the beginning of this about 83% of the people enjoyed the quality of life they have in Santee. And there's a lot of things that they can see that give them that quality of life. But I do hear people complain about the fact that they run over potholes, that streets that have been slurry sealed maybe aren't as smooth as they should be. You know, we provide a really good service here in Santee to address homelessness. In fact, the point-in-time count in the last year showed that we actually had an overall 67% reduction in homelessness here. That means people aren't impacted now on the street by seeing homeless people or being accosted with someone panhandling. But more importantly, it also means that somebody else is now off the street and getting the services they need to have a better quality of life instead of no quality of life. But those come at a cost. The infrastructure that we want to build, the fire stations we want to build, $327 million unfunded capital improvements. Big question is, why are we even here talking about tax initiatives? I think every single person in this room probably says, I never thought in my day that this city council would ever be looking at a tax measure. I never thought it. I've been on this council 24 years. I never thought we would do that. You know, I think I pay enough at the grocery store. I think I pay enough at the gas station and other places. The reality is that when we meet all these challenges and the price keeps going up, but we still keep getting more mandates, we have to do something. We can't build things. We can't put in houses. We can't make widgets. We can't, create, something that's you could sell. So, we can't have enough bake sales to make ends meet. So we have to do something. So council, as much as I hate the idea of a mandate, a mandate, yes, but a tax increase, I think that staff has done a very good job of putting this together. And I think going out and asking people what they would like to do is important. And if the people say, no way, then we have to listen to them. Keep in mind, there's always going to be someone that says no way, and there's always going to be somebody who says, hell yeah. So we have to balance that and be able to figure out how to balance the budget. I think that I support the idea of going out and looking at if a 1% sales tax would make a difference. I think that's what's going to make a difference for us. $7 million a year, I think I said at the last meeting, just isn't going to cover us, especially if we have to put cash down on your, for your house. Sometimes you have to get a mortgage and fund it over it takes, if I can say that. The longer we take, the longer it takes, because this doesn't happen overnight once you get it approved. You have to start putting everything into, motion to make it happen. So with that, I'm going to go to council comments. And I see you're in the queue. Did you want to go next or? Okay.
Okay, thank you. So the comprehensive report that we had last time had a lot of great information in it for me, and so I wrote down a few notes. Basically, Santee residents have told us what they care about: streets, fire protection, public safety, parks, and infrastructure. The survey is how we find out if they're ready to fund it. $29,000, which is what we're being asked to approve tonight, is a fraction of what a failed ballot measure costs in time, money, and lost momentum. In November 2024, the Santee Firefighters Association put a fire-specific sales tax measure before voters, and it came within a few percentage points of passing. A broader measure that addresses the full range of residents' priorities gives more people a reason to say yes, and the ultimate goal is that. I'd like to put a few things on record that I expect answered before this council makes the larger decision in June. I would want an executive summary that includes a timeline with milestones on outreach, staffing, and the support structure for the education and outreach effort. I know we have several vacancies yet to be filled with staff, which puts strain on staff. And I would like to say publicly, I know that I am open to our city manager, Wendy, authorizing additional consultant support, not TeamCivX, but other consultant support to assist her with day-to-day operations, if that is what is needed now to do this right. I'm wondering if we can retest the half cent and the penny at the same time when we redo the survey, just to see, like you said, it's a snapshot in time, even with the half penny. So I'd like to be able to compare those two things side by side. And I don't know if that is even more money or if we can ask it in the survey.
I have not posed that question. I will see if I can get an answer quickly.
Okay, sorry about that. I just thought of that. But I am going to make a motion to approve the staff recommendation today.
I'm sorry, Councilmember. I know that there's kind of a primary recommendation, but the way the recommendation was presented to you was kind of or. So maybe just adopt the resolution attached as the primary recommendation.
Sure.
Thank you.
Rob, anything?
I'm all over the place on this. It's not something I've ever wanted to do. I've made a career of saying no more taxes. And this is crap that we have to be here. I sincerely, I pushed for and try to champion the firefighters with their initiative. I commend them on the battle that they fought on their days off, on their time off, away from their families. And I thought that, I thought with every part of my being that was going to pass. I really did, because it narrowed the scope of the money to a very specific cause, rather than just saying, okay, giving carte blanche to a city council in the future of, here's some new money for you, go figure out ways to spend it. We're telling you we're going to spend it this way, but it's general fund money. After it's all said and done, council can spend it any way they want. But we're not all going to be here necessarily. Those funds could be spent in any other firefighters, because we need a new station in my district. There's no way around it. Answer the call, do it, and that's why we're asking the media, by everyone under the sun, that every government agency is burdened with fraud and waste and theft. Why do they think that? Because most government agencies are burdened with fraud, waste, and theft. How have we done? What have we done to show that? What have we done to project that? Yes, we do our budget meetings, and it's open to the public, but that's not Joe Public. The city manager said that we had a reach out group, and we reached out to these people. The people we reached out to were people that are already the people that show up to city council meetings, the people that are already on our committees, the people that already love the city of Santee and are engaged with what we do. We didn't reach out to the hundreds of people that are on social media right now talking about how the city of Santee are a bunch of thieves. We've wasted all their money. They wholeheartedly believe that the community center is a waste, that was a waste of their money, because that money could have been used for the firefighters and it could have been used for streets. They don't understand because we didn't do a good enough job to reach out to them and educate them. Those are the people that we should have been talking to, not the people that are already running around with the Santee flag over their shoulder. I have absolute reservations that this will pass. And I mean, to Councilmember Trotter's regard, I appreciate him saying, well, what about a 1 cent? Because frankly, I honest to goodness don't know that a half cent versus 1 cent is going to garner more trust and support from a community either direction. When I originally talked about it, I said I would rather do a half cent for 10 years and be very specific about the items that we were going to get done with that money. Narrow that list to exactly the things we actually can and will accomplish with that money in 10 years. And then at the end of 10 years, maybe ask for an extension after we can show the voters that we did what we said we were going to do. But in being in the community and talking to groups, the reality is that they either believe us or they don't believe us. There's no way around it. They either believe us or they don't believe us. And so 1 cent isn't going to move the needle versus a half a cent. I don't know how we can put the message together in this period of time to show the citizens of Santee that we have been good stewards, that we have not wasted taxpayer funds. If you look online, we all take home $150,000 paychecks sitting up here on the dais. I don't know about you guys, but I get $26,000 a year. But that's a far cry from what people think we get paid, and they also don't understand that for $100,000, yeah, but we have less people than almost every other city in San Diego County for many years because of monkeys like me that have fought tooth and nail against every sales tax measure. And that, live within your budget. Live within your budget is always a great thing when your budget's not being robbed on an annualized basis by the county and the state of California, asking for more things, demanding that we handle certain segments of the population in a different way. But we are still responsible for the life-saving measures of those that we're responsible for them. A lot of this did change. A lot of this changed dramatically during COVID. That's when the big influx. Not really. Add to that the massively increasing costs of insurance, or to do that any longer. It's not. It's a it's a dying thought. Even though that's what we, in our homes, that's what we're supposed to do. We live within our budget. We just tighten up. We tighten up. We tighten up. There's not much more that the city of Santee can do to tighten up, other than potentially, literally shutting down our parks, blocking them up, because then otherwise they become homeless shelters. Letting the roads go back to hell in a handbasket when we've spent millions of dollars to get them to not even yet to the acceptable level that we as a council, that this council desires and strives for, but we're very close. And that's not what previous it shouldn't go unnoticed that that's where we go. But there's only so much that these funds that we currently have available to us will carry us to. Honest to goodness, I don't know that I don't know that the way that, if anybody of you been on one of these surveys, the wording is everything. Messaging is everything. I can get someone to, in a survey, agree to almost anything I want them to agree to by messaging, by putting the right message in front of them. I could get them to disagree with almost anything I want them to disagree to by putting the right message in front of them, given a series of questions over time. And listening to their response, I can go to the next one and go, okay, I got you on this one. I got you on this one. And I don't know that spending another 29,000?
It's 29, but just to be clear,
It's an additional.
29, but I'm not asking for additional, just to make the distinction. I'm requesting authority to do the amendment. I'm not asking for additional